Ian Garry, right? This dude traveled all around the world. Notably in the embedded, he was at the Shoot the Box camp in Brazil, training Muay Thai with Charles Oliveira and them, training some jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, right? He is a proponent of, I'm going to travel all around the world. I'm going to get the best looks from all the best camps, because that way I'll literally be getting a compilation of all of the best information that you can get. You can't go wrong with that, right? And my buddy was saying, yeah, that's really cool, man, but if you don't have a home, right? If you don't really have like a home base, it's going to be really difficult to actually hone your craft, because every gym that you go into, you're fighting for your life. You're trying to prove a point. You're trying to, you know what I mean? It's not your staple of buddies who you're like, all right, these are my training partners. They know the limits and all that good stuff. I want your take on that right there. Do you think that this is a hindrance in Ian Garry's career, or do you think that this is going to be something that could be the next wave of MMA training, right? The next generation of, you need to get the most advanced looks from all of the best camps in the entire world. That's what's going to make you a better performer. What do you think?
It's a very interesting question, Derek, especially taking two schools of thought to it. Because, obviously personal trainer, coach side in me, you got to have that home, because every single time you go to a new gym, people are going to be placing other expectations or bad habits on you, or trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. Your coach knows you the best. They can see things that you can't see, and they can break them down and work out those tendencies. And that's why it's so good to have a home. But at the same time, if you're in a small gym in some, podunk town in Kentucky, you can't get the same kind of quality training or quality sparring matches or styles of fights that you can in all the big gyms. And if you bounce around, you're seeing a multitude of different looks. How does that not prepare you to be one of the best fighters? Because you're seeing it all around the world, different styles, different time zones, all kinds of different looks right there. So that's a really good question, Derek. I mean, from an outside perspective, I think it'd probably be better to be in a big gym, but stay in that one gym. So that way, if other people are traveling and you can have it. I guess that's the best of both worlds. Kind of a shit answer. What do you think, Derek? If you have to travel or you had to stick to one, what would you do?
You know what? This is definitely a school of thought type of conversation. My opinion is always going to be, try to find yourself in a populous area with a big camp that has a lot of really talented fighters. Only problem is, then you might not get the special treatment. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, right? But you do want individual work. You can't be at the big gym where you're just an afterthought, right? You want to develop your game and do all that stuff. But I really do like the school of thought that Ian Garry does take, because bro, you have your training camp with Charles Oliveira and Shoot the Box, right? Or you're over at Kill Cliff. I think he got kicked out of Kill Cliff, but you're over at Kill Cliff with all the killers over there. You know what I mean? It's like you're going to these different places. I love it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see that contrast of style against a Geoff Neal, who is very fundamentally a boxer, right? He's a kickboxer, but fundamentally a boxer. They call him Hands of Steel for a reason, because he could walk you down, and it only takes one to really turn the tide of the fight. Now, minus 225 open for Ian Garry, and we're looking at the live odds right now. Minus 240, swole just a little bit, plus 195 comeback for Geoff Neal. We might fall into one of these things before, man. I've done it before. So when Vicente Luque and Geoff Neal fought, Geoff Neal was an afterthought, right? And then I bet on Geoff Neal because I said, you can't just sleep on this guy. He has too much power. He'll be able to get the job done, and he won the fight, right? The difference is Ian Garry, I think, just has too many styles, right? He's not the style bender, but I think my man literally has too many options, from oblique kicks to side kicks, get off me, to a karate style, to pure boxing, to taekwondo. I think he does it all, mixes it up very well, and it's going to make it really hard for Geoff Neal to headhunt or to land the impactful body shots to be able to get him out of there. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the way Ian Garry's able to control range. Like you said, those side kicks, oblique kicks, so even the long jabs, the things he does and the foot movement he has, like probably from traveling around the world and seeing everybody else do those kind of things, makes him a very interesting target to hit. Because he's going to be bringing the pressure. Gary's going to be bringing the pressure at you. He's not just going to be dancing on his bike. He's actually going to be putting the fight to you. And that's where Geoff Neal can really come in, get inside, do some damage. Like you said, big power in the hands. But the question is, can he actually land it? Can he get into that situation? Because I don't see Ian Garry sitting there toe-to-toe in the pocket. I see him throwing a couple strikes and then bouncing out, just like we've seen in the past. He'd be able to, once he does control the fight, and once he really does have you hurt, then he'll go in and do some real damage, maybe even take to the ground, does all that stuff. Like you said, Derek, I just think Ian Garry has too many tools in the tool belt to actually have a moment where he is open for Geoff Neal to really come in and do a lot of damage.
Yeah, so like with that being said, Geoff Neal, I mean, he can still get the job done, but we're just thinking comprehensively in this matchup. Ian Garry might just be a little bit too much, right? So let's kind of talk a little bit deeper in these numbers. If you're looking at Ian Garry and you're looking at all the props, plus 315 TKO, plus 700 submission, plus 150 for the decision, I really think that the decision is going to be a really worthwhile bet that you could take on right here, given, look at the last 10. Geoff Neal has never lost via knockout, really any other finish other than getting choked out by Shavkat Rakhmonov. So, given the durability of a Geoff Neal right here, do you take anything? Do you take the money line on Ian Garry, play it safe, and just see what happens? Or do you say, no, I got to smash that decision prop?
Ooh, that's an interesting question, Derek. Because I right now I'm thinking, man, you take that money line. Yeah, it's a minus 225. There's there. Ian Garry has so many tools. We were just talking about that. Could he get this fight done? Arguably, he's a higher talent than Shavkat. I mean, that's to be seen once these two actually square up and fight face off. I like that money line, plus 150. But if I'm throwing some cash on this one, I think I'm taking, or the decision, excuse me. If I'm throwing some cash on this one, I'm taking that money line at minus 225.
And I'm not sure, man. If you look at some of the embeddeds, you're seeing Ian Garry work a lot of jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. I'm not sure if he's anticipating a takedown from Geoff Neal. I don't know what exactly is going to go into it, given that there is history. There is a little bit of a grudge going, right? There's the smack talk going back and forth. So if you're a Geoff Neal bettor, one thing that you do got to take into consideration, very, very good octagon control, ability to push you up against the cage and land the big shot, hit you with the big counter. And I think Ian Garry's biggest problem is you cannot have too much bravado in this matchup. You cannot get overconfident against a Geoff Neal. Last guy in the world you want to get overconfident against because he will catch you. But I do think comprehensively Ian Garry is the right play right here. And the only other question that we need to answer, we need to address, is the over and under. 2.5 rounds is the over and under, minus 130 for the over, plus 100 for the under. What do you like there?
That's interesting. No, I actually kind of like the under on this one, Derek. I mean, with the grudge match going in, with this being a 3-round fight, I think these boys are going to start fast, start furious, and really get to the action.
Yeah, I heard that. Ian Garry, a lot of finishes in his last 10, a lot of first-round knockouts, second-round knockouts, even a third-round knockout. I have a hard time thinking he finishes Geoff Neal, how tenured and how veteran that man is. So give me Ian Garry, give me that decision at plus 150. I feel like I'm confident on that play. Any last words on this one?
Derek's taking the decision plus 150. I'm actually going to be a bold move right here. Two submission losses in a row for Geoff Neal. Give me that plus 700 submission.
All right. And one submission loss in a row for Geoff Neal, but he's going to make it 2 right here. Is that what you're saying? Ian Garry's going to make it the second? All right. Right. Oh, bold prediction from my man AJ. But listen, that's what we do here on the Bloody Water Podcast, folks. So let's move it right on along.